Spotify. You know what? Thinking about it, I'm not sure if the music is completely YouTube friendly. No one's in here. I'm always so conscious about that. I don't want my video getting claimed. Ooh, and it's overheating my phone. Okay, well, never mind. I thought some music would be nice, but it's overheating my phone. That's disappointing. Oh well. It is what it is. Today, I will be painting. Very lovely painting, excuse me. It's a concept I've been playing around with. It's a kind of say something painting. And I don't do like dark gothic art. I like my art to be bright and colorful. I'm gothic, but I like to use a lot of color in my paintings, and usually I like to use them to say something, make a statement or something. Just whatever. It's gonna be a painting of a type of ocean creature called a Manowar. So I'm about to start painting that, and as always, you are welcome to grab your sketchbook, grab whatever colors, and join along with me as I'm painting this. And we're just hanging out today. Okay. So to start out, I'm going to tell you about the tools I like to use when painting. Um, I'm not sponsored by any of these products, unfortunately. For the record, if you do want your painting products on my channel, if you would like to sponsor me that way, please send me a message. Leave it in the comments below. Send me something. We can work something out. I'm as long as the paint sticks to the canvas, that's all I really care about. And it comes in a broad variety of colors, of course. So, talking about what I like to use, my canvas is a generic canvas. They come in packs of 10 at the local supercenter, Walmart. The only drawback I have found with doing generic canvases like this is sometimes they do arrive damaged. I got one in one of these packs actually that had a rip down the middle, and it was in the middle of the pack, so there was no way of knowing. Currently working on fixing that so I can paint on that canvas again. I've got a working theory going, but I'll do that on a day when I'm not trying to paint something pretty, when it's just going to be for myself. I do not use fancy palettes. These are your basic Corel ceramic plates. Some artists like to use those little plastic palettes that have different wells in them to keep their paints together. I take my inspiration from painting from Bob Ross, so I like to have an open palette that I can mix colors back and forth on my palette. And a plate does that very well, and it's very economical and planet friendly because all I do from there is I wash them off and I use regular acrylics, so they are water friendly. The pigment just dissolves in water. No special cleanup. Now, I don't know how many artists do this, but I like to control the moisture in my brushes. So I like to have some paper towels and newspapers. Paper towels are not necessarily planet friendly, but they are good if you're trying to get your brush clean for a different color or to control moisture. Newspapers do pretty much the same thing, except you're recycling without hurting the planet. I have my own views on recycling, but I will not share them. To rinse, I like to use a Folgers can full of water. Just regular tap water is fine for me. I like to keep it down on the floor, so if I do spill and make a mess, I can clean it up without damaging something. For paint, I have a little, just off camera, I'm not going to pick it up because it's heavy. I have a little Rubbermaid Tupperware drawer thingy that has pull-out plastic drawers. I can pull out the drawers. See? One of these that you get from Walmart. And it holds my colors really nicely. And as you can see, generic Walmart brand paints. If you're a new artist just starting out, I don't really believe in using a bunch of money for paintings that aren't like on the artsy fartsy professional gallery level. If I were doing these paintings for a gallery that I was actually getting paid for, then I would go to my local art supply and get some really nice high dollar paints. The thing about paints is immediately you don't see any difference, but over the course of time, you will see a difference in how the paint ages. Cheap acrylics are not going to age the same as high dollar oils. And it's got a lot to do with acidity. It's got a lot to do with the materials that goes into the paints. Pretty essentially, that's kind of what it boils down to. Now, these are my brushes. That's a lighter. And, in my brush drawer, I have a little bit of everything. I have one of these. It has a little ball tip. There we go. Yeah, see? Got a little bit of ball tip. I have these in different sizes. These are good if you're trying to write in paint. I have these brushes right here. Again, this is all generic paint stuff. I inherited this when I was working at a place and they were painting a pumpkin for a Halloween decorating contest. Our pumpkin won, of course, because I did it. And they gave me the art supplies afterwards, which was absolutely awesome. So yeah, I got those paint brushes from that. I picked this up package of like some really cheap tiny brushes. If you're trying to do like watercolor paintings with cheap watercolors, these are kind of good for that. If you're trying to do like regular detail work, you can work these pretty good. And of course, mixed in there, I have some decent quality acrylic brushes. I tend to use these more often than I use anything else. I'll use these first and then these when I don't have like one of these in the right size, because brush size matters. The brush you are using for whatever you're doing does make a difference. If you try to use an oil brush for an acrylic painting, you're going to be fighting it. So just make a note of that if you're interested in learning how to paint. This is just me explaining some of my art supplies that I'm using. For priming the canvas, which with acrylic paints, really all you have to do is just get the canvas wet. So I have some broad brushes for that. And also for background colors, I find it's really handy to have some big, juicy brushes for like large amounts of color. On a legit size canvas, you're going to want background color. So these are really great to have, and this is where having a paper towel comes in, because once these get wet, it's really hard to control the moisture, and if you don't, the paint is going to drip everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I mean everywhere. It's a mess. So you want you don't want a soaking wet, but you want it damp. So those are my paintbrushes, and I just like to keep them in the drawer with the paints. So what I'm going to start with today for paints are my two big brushes, because since I'm doing an ocean scene, I'm going to want big brush for all the blue I'm going to be using. And then I'm going to be doing some line work. So I'm going to want some angle brushes, angulars. And I don't think I have yet, no. Okay, so I'm going to use my brightly colored, I just put it back there it is. Using this one, and that's almost a little too small, but I'm going to use it anyways, probably. It's always good before you start painting to go ahead and lay out some of your tools that you think you're going to be using, just so that way once you get into the creative flow of things, it's not quite so difficult to root around and find what you're looking for. Since we're going to be just doing the major details right now, the brushes don't need to be too small. This is probably, this one right here, yeah, this one right here is probably going to be the biggest that you're going to need right now if you're painting with me. What else? I think I'm also going to get this one right here flat. I like to start out with flat brushes, and then for finer details, I'll move to the smaller round brushes. It's personal preference. So in terms of color, I have my big tube of black and my big tube of white. When you're controlling tint, these are what you use, black or white. Tint is light or dark, and hue is when you mix in a color that is complementary to that color. So a hue of blue is when you mix in orange, and the more orange you mix in and the more brown it becomes, that's a hue. Design, everybody. Let's see here. I'm also going to be doing a few different types of blue. One reason why I like System 3 is because they use Bob Ross names, which I think is perfectly adorable. I am a huge Bob Ross fan. Bob Ross is chicken soup for any artist's soul. You just watch him and, you feel better. So I've got some Prussian blue hue and some ultramarine and some light blue. Since I'm doing the background right now, that's why it's important to use blues. We'll focus on the details later on bringing them out, but right now it's all about the blue. I have more colors than that. You saw them in my little drawer. So, let's see here. Do, 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 do. All right. Can't believe it's already almost been an hour. So, get your brushes, get your paints, get your sketchbook, or get a book. And we're just hanging out today. For the millionth time, I said that. Moving my bucket over so I can get the stuff arranged. So I can reach it if I need it, and I don't have to go looking for it. It is very important as an artist to keep your coffee mug separate from your washing well. Because it is a sad, sinking feeling to look up and realize you've been washing your paint in your coffee. Not fun. Okay, so all of my brushes are going down into the water to get damp. Now, I admit I'm a little messy. Yeah, I'm messy, but I'm also messy. So the sleeves on my sweater got to roll up, or else I'm going to get paint everywhere. I'm going to start with a plate of paint here. Also, oh yes, writing and drawing materials. Now, I know there are a lot of artists out there having a conniption fit over these two things right here. I know there are a few who are like, yeah, okay. The truth is, to be an artist, this is all you need. This and some paper. And that's it. You can do so much with just these two things, a number 2 and a big pink. You can use the fancy things, but if you don't have money for it, then don't spend it if you don't have it. That's what I always say. I'm sorry, I'm noticing that I'm worried that my microphone isn't working. If you're wearing headphones and you've got the volume up, and you can hear me, take your headphones off. I'm about to make a really loud noise. Okay, so that I can see if the microphone's working or not. So in 3, take your headphones off. In 3, 2, 1. Hey, is the microphone Okay, yeah. The microphone is working. I'm sorry if I blew out your speakers. I don't like it when people do that to me, but I had to check. It's a little late to be checking, I know. But this is your fearless leader, everybody. Lilith Blood Moon, a whole life of awkward to share with you. So continuing on with the painting. So first, we're going to lay in our design really loosely with a regular number 2 pencil. And this is my pencil bag. Yeah, a little cheap number 2 pencil sharpener. And this is a life lesson, y'all. A ruler. This is like one of the most, this one is really cool. It folds in the middle. But a ruler, y'all, a ruler. It sound, I know I'm sounding crazy, but it took me so long as an artist to figure out that you don't need to struggle to draw a straight line. You aren't proving anything to anybody about drawing straight lines. Rulers are 25 cents at your local supermarket. Shoot, they're on sale when it's back to school season, and you can get them on the cheapy cheap. I've got like 3 different ones. There's one that clips into a binder. There's one that punches holes for papers in your binder. Get yourself a ruler. And, you know, in regular housekeeping, it's also another good thing to have. Today, I'm going to use it to be drawing not my horizon line, because we don't need depth. We do need depth, but perspective is good if you're drawing like buildings and people. We're going to be doing an abstract thought here. So perspective is important, but on a scale of 1 to 10, it ranks about a 5 for abstract. You want depth and perspective in abstract, but you don't want, but you're not trying to like get things to look logical some of the time. Hopefully, I'm making sense on that. So we've got this, got the pencil. We're just gonna. You know what? I don't mean to tease, but I'm gonna turn on a little bit better light so I can see what I'm painting. Right now, I don't have very much light going on. It's actually quite dark in here. So give me just a second. I'm just leaning forward. Okay. So now that it's a little bit more bright in here, and I can see a little bit better, I'm gonna get started with my painting. Keeping it simple. And one more thing. When you're laying in lines for a painting you're doing, keep the marks as light as possible, so it doesn't show through the paint, but you can still see what you're trying to paint. You can be as sketchy as you want, as long as it doesn't show through the paint, or you can still erase your lines before you paint it. This isn't like with digital art that you can go and like completely hide it. With acrylic paints, it's really important to do light lines. Okay, so looking at my reference, I want the water to be kind of deep in my painting. So I'm gonna go pretty high on the canvas. And I'm just gonna lay that in ever so gently. Gently, caress it. We aren't trying to punish the canvas. Canvas is our friend. Canvas is going to help us communicate our ideas. So we don't need to be too mean. So from here, we're going to decide where we want our Manowar to sit. And it's going to be, you know what? This is another reason why you want nice light lines. If you want to go back and fix a mistake, the best part about art is if you make a mistake, you either just keep going like you meant to do it, or you just take erasers to it. I know some artists like to use fancy gum erasers, fancy kneaded erasers, and those all have their place in art and sketching, especially if you get really heavy into sketching. It's really handy to have a kneaded eraser because then you can control how big the area is that you're erasing. That's where it comes from on digital painting websites, is the effect that a kneaded eraser has. Just about any effect that you have on digital art, you could probably achieve in a real thing. Now, excuse me, I got a text message. I got to see what it is. I might be coming back in a minute. This is a repair issue for my apartment. Picking up the materials so the dog doesn't try to drink the water. I am a dog mom of 4, and my dogs are indiscriminate about the water they drink. So unless I want multicolored poop, of course this water's still pretty clean. Oh my brushes out of water. They're nice and wet now, so I can just lay them on some newspaper. Newspaper is endlessly useful. You can use newspaper for anything. And if you have access to like large handfuls of it, just always keep some at your house. You can wash windows with it. You can house train dogs with it. You can clean up spills with it. You can dry dishes. Yeah, okay, yeah. That is the repair call. I'm going to be getting uh, somebody in to fix my sink here in a minute. So I'm probably going to be muting the microphone while I work. So that way his privacy is protected. I'm all about that consent. And if somebody doesn't want the fame, I'm not going to give it to them, you know. I'm one of those people. I don't believe in taking pictures of people at Walmart throwing shade at them. That's unnecessary, uh, and it's a violation of somebody's privacy. They might be in something that I would never do at Walmart, but you know, I'll just enjoy that snow leopard moment myself and just leave them to their privacy. There's a personal space thing with photography that people who haven't been to school for it don't really know about, but there's a personal space thing. And cosplayers are familiar with the idea of personal space in photography. Um, always ask before you take somebody's picture. But this guy is just coming in to fix my sink, and I just don't want to like violate his privacy. He's just going about his job. So the camera will be on. He shouldn't be coming in here. The camera's going to be on, and I'm just going to let him work. Um, I'm actually going to go get the kitchen set up for him so he can just come in, do his business, go. So I will be back in a few minutes. Actually, that is a fantastic idea. I am going to leave a note so that way people who come in will know. Oh, yes, and one more very essential art tool that goes unsung, masking tape. Masking tape is endlessly useful. You can use this for just about anything in art. You can use it to keep areas clean. You can use it to control where color goes. You can use it to fix canvas or secure it. It just depends. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use it to stick it to my canvas, and then I'm going to put my canvas in front of the camera so y'all know where I am. And it's going to be pretty simple. In terms of ink pens, regular Bic works just fine. I'm not trying to ink over pencil with this. If you're trying to ink over pencil, you're better off with markers. Either Copics or Sharpie, doesn't matter. Bic pens make for a nightmare when you're inking over regular pencils. So just for business uses, it's always good to have a Bic pen. But if you're inking over number 2, always have a Sharpie or something, or regular marker on hand. Back in 10 minutes. Guest came in. And I get that people can rewind these live feeds and see what's going on. But rather than have y'all hunt through all of my footage, past hours worth of footage, to see where I went, I'm just going to be nice. Actually, you know what's better? Marker. This is my marker thing. I'm one of those sadists that uses the sugar butter cookie tins for things. This was for the holidays, and it had those really cool butter cookies in it. But now I'm using it to store markers. So yeah, you've always got to be on your guard at my place because I recycle everything. Everything does double duty. Everything has to do double duty. All right, be back in 10 minutes. Okay. All right. So I'll tape this. Where'd my masking tape go? To my canvas. And that's another beautiful thing about masking tape is it doesn't stick too hard like duct tape does. I do use the crap out of duct tape, but for art things, masking tape, you really can't beat it. All right, so stick this right here. My little tripod for my piece of work. Yep, there we go. It's backwards. Mm. Well, you know what? When markers bleed through, it's a beautiful thing. Be back in 10 minutes. Stick that to my canvas. I will be back in about 10 minutes. I just got to get set up for the repairman. I will be back. Calling all puppies. Hey, everybody. Everybody in? Come on. A little bit. Wiggle. Okay. Mojo, come on. Come on. Come on. Oh, don't look at me like that. Everybody in. Thank you. Okay. Where is my little black Pomeranian? Hey, sleepy dog. Come on. Come here. Come here. Oh, he's so sleepy. Oh, he's so sleepy. Oh, I'm sorry to wake you up. Come on. Come on, Weezy. Everybody in. Okay. And I'm back. That took less than 10 minutes. Okay. And I'm back. At least for now. Our apartment is extremely tiny, so it's not like I have to show him where it is. But, I gotta make sure he's all set in and everything. So, as I was saying about the painting, so I'm gonna keep my be back soon in case I need it back into, yeah. I really like having my drawers right here. So I have everything I could possibly need at my fingertips. I'm one of those super organized types. Am I missing anything? Nope. Hmm. All right. Getting settled back in. What did I do with my... All right. So I'm going to start by getting all my paints laid out and my lines laid in. This time I'm going to draw my line about 2/3 up. Separate. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Yep, I like that much better. And actually, that previous line gives me a good idea about where I want my Manowar to come up to. And then we're going to have some tentacles coming down, holding on to things, consuming things. It's just fun to have a brightly colored say something painting. So I'm pretty happy with that. One thing I do want to do real quick is look up a reference, a visual reference of a Manowar. It pulled up the band. Ish. So yeah, if you want to know what a Manowar looks like, you got to go to Google and look up Manowar fish. Essentially, it is a jellyfish that floats on the top of the ocean. Excuse me. They are incredibly poisonous and they sting like insanely painfully. But I thought it would be nice to have a Manowar, but like in its tentacles are people and tanks and items and victims of war. It's a say something painting. And I've been wanting to paint this for a few months now. It's been rolling around in my head. I like to let my projects age a little bit. I've got my design laid in. I've got visual references up on my screen. I've got my colors. So I think I am about ready to start laying in what I want to paint. Mhm. It's that good anxiety. getting ready. So we're actually going to be using a nice white base here to start out with. Just a little bit of the white. Just a little bit of the Julia Child's white. All right, and we paint back to forward in paintings. I know with the usual thing, I know in grade school they're like, paint wherever you want. But if you want your painting to have depth, start with the background and come forward and do layers. You can always let paint dry and then come back and do a little bit more. I did some white with a little bit of my light blue. This is for the sky. Now the thing is, with mixing colors for, here it is, spatula. The thing is, with mixing colors, I don't like using brushes. It clogs the brush and it dirties up your water unnecessarily. It wastes paint. If you have like a little spatula, this is actually a sculpting tool used for sculpting polymer clay. As you can see, it's got some really nice spatula features on it. And I like to use this to scoop and to mix my paint. And it makes it very handy. And then I'm not wasting paint. I'm not clogging up a paintbrush. I'm not unnecessarily dirtying the water because I've got my paper towels and my newspaper here to wipe it off on. Extremely handy. So I'm going to mix these together. And now if I were going for realism, I would be mixing in a little bit of red, like a tiny dot of red and a tiny dot of brown, because I don't want, in realistic pictures of the sky, the blue should never be so vivid. Straight up light blue is too vivid to be realistic. Now, since I am doing something a little bit more modern and abstract, I want that really vivid blue. And also, since it's not going to be realistic, I can completely mix my paints together so that it's a solid light blue and not a swirl. With realism, you also kind of want little swirls of color in, so as you're putting it on your canvas, it kind of blends into a little bit more depth. Now, what I have on my spatula here, I know how to pronounce spatula. There are some words that I mispronounce on purpose, like spatula, and I'll say spatula, or gondola is gondola. I think it's funny, and it's an interesting take on a word. But I know how to say spatula, but for me it's spatula. So I came out with this really nice, pretty light, almost a robin's egg in terms of light blue. This is going to go across the top here for the sky. And again, pay attention to where you're putting your paintbrushes, because the worst thing you can do is put it in your coffee, like I always seem to manage to do at least once while I'm doing a painting. I always seem to clean my brushes in my coffee at least once. And maybe the brush is just thirsty for some caffeine. I don't know. So we have a nice little dollop of the robin's egg blue. Sorry, that is a terrible Julia Child's impression. But just a hint of the robin's egg. Now, check your brush. You want damp, wet, but not dripping for this. We're gonna start by, and again, the water goes onto the floor. This keeps things from spilling. Things can't fall off the table if they're already on the floor. My natural grace, everyone. Towel. So we're gonna get this wet. So, and one reason why I like the Folgers can is it's got that little lip there. It helps you wring out your brush. And then you're just gonna wipe. Don't press in, wipe. That's all you gotta do. Now, to now this canvas already has some primer on it. We're just gonna activate it by getting what we want wet. This is gonna help us control where the color goes. It's almost like with watercolor, how you control the color. Acrylic is just really nice because it resembles watercolor in a lot of ways for me, especially the kind that I use. You can dilute it or make it really concentrated, and acrylics age really well on the palette as well. I often like the colors I get from things that have been sitting out for a minute over the stuff that's fresh from the tube. Now, we aren't trying to be fancy, and we aren't trying to stay inside the lines. What we are trying to do is check and make sure that our easel isn't falling off. And my easel is another product of the local super center. And once that is nice and wet, we're going to check the wetness of our brush. Now we can press into the paper towel, get rid of excess moisture, but there shouldn't really be any. And we're going to dip our paintbrush. Now you don't want to clog your paintbrush. You don't need to clog your paintbrush. That's all you need. It's going to soak in, okay? And this isn't going to do all of that. But you don't need a lot on your paintbrush. Less is best. So you just want to start wherever, and you're just laying in the color. Right now, we aren't looking for perfection. We are just looking to get some color on the canvas. It's just like a road trip, We aren't trying to have everything perfect and done by the time we get in the car. We're just getting some miles behind us. A little bit more paint on the paintbrush, reloading. Right now, the density of the paint kind of matters, so you don't want to water it down too much. Canvas differs from paper in the way that it has a warp and a weft in its fabric. And if your paint is too thin, then it doesn't settle into that warp and weft, and you get those weird little grid holes. And we don't want that. Now, staying inside the lines isn't important, but if you're planning on something being white in a part of your painting, and you want to spare yourself the headache of going back and laying in white over a dark color, because if you're wanting to start with a white, you're going to have white in terms of painting. So it would behoove you to decide if you're going to have a white highlight somewhere and how big it's going to be and how much of a headache you want to have coming in later laying in white, because that makes a difference. Speaking from somebody who painted on cardboard for almost a year, go ahead and decide that now. So it's not important to stay inside the lines or stay outside of the lines in this case, but it is important if you mind having to let the paint dry, painting white over it, and then going in. You're adding steps to yourself. That's what I'm trying to say. So we're just coming in here and just putting in color. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. This is your painting. This is your world. Just try not to knock your easel off of your little table. And yeah, I have one of those really nice big black fold-out tables. Right now I'm on a TV tray. My easel's on a TV tray, so I have to be careful. But it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not even deciding right now where my lines are going to go. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and go on through my Manowar because I want there to be a certain amount of transparency to it. And the easiest way with paint to make transparency is to paint over something and make it transparent. Now, you can always tell when your brush is too dry because you get those dry streaks. Now, that's good on some ways, not so good on the other. So, paper towel, dip your brush, wipe your brush on the edge, get a little ring out going, and barely any pressure. You don't want your paintbrush too dry or your paint's not going to spread right. And there we go, just laying in some nice color there. And just filling in the gaps. I like to go a little bit beneath the lines and a little bit over the lines where one color ends and one begins so that there's full coverage. Nothing's going to make your painting look more amateur than nothing's going to make your painting look more amateur than if you've got those little stray white streaky lines around your subject, or like where one color ends and the other color begins. That is, don't do that. That is a no-no. If you finished a painting and you look back and you see where that is, just go back in. It's okay. Nobody's gonna know. Just get yourself a little bit of paint, fix those holes, and your painting will thank you for it. Your patience will be rewarded. So you've got that really nice, pretty light blue laid in. Now I have a giant dollop of blue left from where I mixed a lot of paint to do this top part, and I don't like wasting paint. So the way I'm gonna fix this is I'm gonna get myself, I think I'm gonna do a little ultramarine blue, because it's a way of not wasting paint. If you don't want to, don't waste paint if you don't want to. I don't like wasting paint, and I like ultramarine. It's pretty. And again, that's almost too much. All else fails, we'll add some white and lighten it up. The beautiful part about paint is that if you mess up, keep adding color. Keep adding color until you get what you want. Oh yeah, I like that. I might have to add a little white. The ultramarine was a little loose and it came out faster than I thought it would. But that is pretty. That is a pretty shade of ultramarine. Yeah, that's very nice and deep. And I'm still deciding on a color scheme for this painting. I'm thinking I'm going to go kind of monochromatic with some pops of color in the tentacles, like some orange and some yellow and some green. But for the Manowar itself, Manowar fishes are blue and purple, typically. But see, it's hard to see. But it is almost a lilac. Let's see if I can do it this way. Yeah, there's the light blue. Oh, poopy. Can't see it. Well, take my word for it. It's a periwinkle. Yeah, that's what it is. Periwinkle. So make sure I didn't put my elbow in where I wiped my spatula off. There we go. All right. Wipe it off on newspaper. Waste not, want not. Okay. For my next trick, I'm going to do the color for this part right here. Simple and elegant. Rinse off our brush very sweetly, gently. Yep, and that is why it's on the floor. I just went to dry off my paintbrush and it squirted everywhere. Now there's water on the floor. This is why the water bucket goes on the floor. In memory, I love you, Bob. Okay. In loving memory, we'll do the beat it like a devil thing once. Oh, and now my brush is too dry. Remember, we don't want our brush too dry. We're trying to distribute paint evenly, and if the brush is too dry, the paint is not going to distribute evenly. Now for the paintbrush again, just the tip. Just the tip. And we're just gonna some water got into the part. Okay. And we're gonna lay that in. And again, staying in the lines doesn't particularly matter right now, especially since we're going to be making like little watery waves later. It's just right now it's important to keep, because believe it or not, in our minds, we can sense when something's uneven. And on a subconscious level, it will mess with you. You will not like something and not know why. Will not like something and not know why, and it's because secretly it's uneven. That's not an OCD thing. That's just the human mind looking for symmetry, which is a very human thing to do. So, paint. Now you'll notice that I don't like to go up and down too much. Um, that's another thing about symmetry and flow. When the paint brush leaves stroke marks. Actually, you can always, that's one way you can tell if a painting has been hand painted or if it has been printed and painted over with like a shellac or something, the painting will have brush strokes. And depending on how you want the eye to draw is how you do your brush strokes. Now I'm giving a little bit more paint. There I go, reaching for that coffee. I told you, it's gonna happen once, at least once while I'm doing this painting, that I am going to dip my brush in my coffee. I do it every time. And there we go. This is what I was talking about. If your brush is too dry, the paint is not going to distribute evenly. But if your paint is too wet, then it's not going to settle into the canvas properly. And we don't want that either. And we're just, if I do stroke down, it's usually to draw paint down. And then I fix my paint strokes. Paint strokes are important. And I know some of you are going, but Lilith, hold on a minute. What about your really light colored pencil strokes? Well, you can't see it, but I can. And they're still there. They're very light. And sometimes paint dries more transparent than it actually does on the canvas. So don't ever worry about that. If you can't even see that, you know what's supposed to be there. Don't freak out. Got to do the bottom part of this canvas. Turn it upside down. Now this is where you got to be careful about your paint drips, because you don't want it to drip up into your sky, but you also want your paint to once again settle really nicely onto the canvas. We've almost got our background colors. And I know some artists that will watch this will go, gosh, your backgrounds are so flat. Well, right now it is, but you'll see. You can add a lot of definition later. It's still early. It's still really early to be making any judgments about this painting. It's still very young. I mean, think about the stuff people thought about you when you were young. You know, what they thought about you, what they thought you were going to be, what they thought you were going to do, their hopes, their dreams for you. Did you turn out like that? Be honest. You don't have to judge something in the beginning. If you do that, you miss out on things. So never judge the beginning of things. It always will turn out differently and subvert your expectations. Now that I have done the background successfully, I might add. Yeah, I like that. That's good. Push that. We are going to sit back and admire the canvas for a few minutes to let let it air dry a little bit. Honestly, you want the canvas to dry a little bit so that your paint doesn't. Bleeding is not okay. My coffee. Do, 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 do. Look at my Manowar reference. Interesting. Portuguese. Ooh, this is a really nice one. That's really nice reference. Oh, that's why. That's because it's painted. I think I'll use that one. Portuguese. So some things I'm noticing about the Manowar is that it's actually clear. The color you see it have, well, actually, no, it's not actually clear because I've seen Manowar on the beach, like beach Manowar that have died, and they're a little bit more than a bubble then. It's very sad, and you definitely don't want to step on them, even when they're dead. They are very poisonous. Uh, but when they're sitting on water, they look clear. And the main thing to keep in mind when doing this is that whenever it's sitting up on top right here, it needs to have white lines so it looks clear. So part of this is going to be me deciding how to make this Manowar look like a Manowar so people identify it as a Manowar. And they kind of get what I'm saying whenever I have the business with the tentacles on the bottom. You know what? While I'm letting the paint dry, I'm going to answer a survey really quickly. Um, this one looks kind of juicy. All right. I'm going to do this survey really quickly while I wait for my canvas to dry a little bit. And yeah, you're essentially watching me sit here and fill out this survey. But get out your book. We're hanging out today. We don't necessarily have to talk. Okay. I do want to move this. And once you do have paint on your plate, try not to set anything on top of the paint because that gets. After that, you just put your paint on top of whatever you're doing. Okay. There we go. Copy. Paste. Group game with other participant. Herd of cattle over time, and to survive for as long as possible. You will begin the game with 70 cattle. To survive, you must keep your herd size above the survival threshold. I will be right back. It is time to get a fresh cup of coffee, and I will be right back. It's just a party of one, isn't it? Yep. I just got accepted to user testing. This is so exciting. So, user testing is a website where you can log in and test websites and get paid for it. Actually, this is an excellent opportunity to explain something. The reason why I have disappeared for a week, my car blew up. Not like literally blew up, but it finally got to the point where I had to do something about it. And so I had to go visit some family way out of town and rest my car's soul. It is terminal. The engine has some major problems in it, and my precious car that I've had over 10 years is terminally ill. And I have to find a real 9 to 5 job that pays more than YouTube does, uh, which YouTube doesn't pay me anything right now, uh, to buy a new car so me and my family have a mode of transportation. It's very sad and kind of depressing. And while I would like to stay here with you all and hang out and do this stuff on the regular, hard fact of the matter is bills have got to be paid. And so find a job I shall, and find a job I must. Um, the little surveys and things that I'm doing right now are doing well to fill in gaps for me and my family. Uh, but as far as something substantial, I'm going to be finding something pretty soon that will probably take me away from YouTube for much longer than a week. I got another text message, excuse me. That was actually a message from my last survey. There was an error at the end of it, which this happens with filling out online surveys uh, sometimes, that there's an error and you can't complete the survey, or you spent all that time and you completed the survey, but then the final load screen freaks out on you and then you can't finish it. Then you can't go to the completion screen that gives you the code to put in to get compensated. So if you are in the process of doing online surveys, I have found that communication does well. This is a phone call. Excuse me. I cannot explain that phone call, and my lip readers, please hush hush. That is a very personal matter. That's why I had to mute the microphone. It's got my confidentiality, and it's got confidentiality regarding another person. So, you know what? I muted it, so you shouldn't. Yeah, you shouldn't hear anything. You shouldn't have heard anything. Well, it's based on a case from over a year ago, and it's not even relevant anymore anyway. Um, but it is good news. It's not anything bad. The call was a good one. I'm just keeping names and special details about it out of the line of vision. Again, it's about consent and confidentiality, respecting people's space. Um, but I was talking about user testing to change the subject back to something more positive. Uh, yeah, my application was just accepted, and I'm going to be testing websites for pay, and I'll be able to do that regularly on top of whatever regular job I have. Oh, and that's what I was talking about is my car is terminal, and we have to buy a new car and pay bills at the same time. And I'm also moving to Dallas. Yep, that's a thing. Yep. Lots of crazy stuff gonna be happening over the next few months. Uh, Pretty crazy. So I'm gonna work on the user testing really quickly. You know what? In case you missed the desk tour, I have two screens. And
Congratulations and welcome to our panel. As part of the user testing panel, you are helping companies
random welcome video. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. I'm just filling out some information here. Oh, that is not what I wanted to select. States. chrome and edge. I hate including my LinkedIn profile in places because I haven't ever touched it. Web expertise. You know what, I'm being honest. My computer, my phone. Interesting. I am looking at this. Well, while I would like to do these things, kind of in the middle of a bunch of stuff right now. So I think what I'm going to do is leave it on that page and let it just hang out. And then once we're done hanging out here, yeah. Once we're done hanging out here, then I will go finish that stuff. I'll probably be cutting the hangout off a little early so I can do this. Depending strongly upon that right there. Yeah, it's dry enough to continue. So we are going to continue on, soldier on here with my Manowar painting. Get my brushes and everything back. Now, I have a wood desk. Well, not necessarily a wood desk, fake wood desk. Fake wood desk. And wood, anything, doesn't like excessive amounts of moisture for too long. Otherwise, it starts to swell and pucker, and fake wood like this does that weird little ringy thing with the lumps and bumps. So it is best to always have numerous layers if you're going to have your brushes resting on like paper towel or something. Have numerous layers so that way it doesn't mess up the surface of your desk. That's important to me because that's how I draw, and I don't want a bunch of bumps in my drawings, and I don't want to have to like use an easel for everything. So from here, I am going to need more paint. Going back to this really pretty ultramarine, and again, there's no need to waste paint. I'm going back on top of the paint that I used to do this part. And I'm just going to mix it around and in. I'm still waiting on my repairman. I'm sure he'll be around soon. And I'll mute the microphone again so we can respect people's privacy. That's okay. And I know I get the irony of having a YouTube live hangout and talking about respecting folks' privacy. I don't care about my privacy. I am messy and petty and everything, and I don't mind people talking about me because I've had people talking about me my whole life, and people, even when I'm 200 years old, people still going to be talking about me, and I don't care, but other people might. So I've got to respect their privacy and their right to it. So that's why I'm so sensitive about muting the mic when I'm talking to other people or dealing with other people, because they might not want to be a part of this. So if you ever want to do your own YouTube thing, that's something you got to keep in mind, is respecting other people's privacy. I mean, if you think about any problems anybody's ever had on YouTube, it's always come from not respecting folks' privacy. If you don't respect folks' privacy, people get angry, especially when it comes to people what otherwise can't fight back. When it's them, they get really sensitive. So it's best for all parties involved, whenever you're going through stuff like that, always respect people's privacy. You might not care in your own personal consent. As long as it's within your realm of consent, people aren't going to mind. But whenever you start involving other people, you've got to get consent. It's all about the consent. Um, some people just don't want tea. All right, so my Manowar. I'm flipping to another screen here. So we got a little bubbly. Bubbly bubble, and then a bunch of tentacles. Super spooky looking. So this is where we start using the smaller brushes. We start getting kind of sensitive. Actually, no, I'm gonna stick with what I got. I almost wanted to add a little bit something extra to my painting, but I decided against it. And you know what? The best part about painting is if I want to go back and put something in it, I can. It's my painting, so I can do whatever I want with it. I can destroy my painting after I paint it if I really wanted to, but I don't. So yeah, coming into this painting, kind of looks like a potato, clear potato with a mohawk. Whoa. Whoa. So we're going to come in with our paint. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect right now. Doesn't have to be perfect at all. What we're doing right now is we're laying in some very simple lines. If we make a mistake, we can fix it later. Right now is we're just getting the idea out of our head. I mean, one thing to keep in mind is not wanting to fix something unnecessary. you know? That's something to consider. But right now, we aren't trying to be perfectionists. Kind of got a little mouthy area right here. And again, not trying to be perfect, just getting the idea out of our head. We've got all the time we need to be as perfect as we want. Just getting the idea out of our head. A little blown up balloon here. Proud little mohawk. Happy little mohawk. Happy little Manowar mohawk. Yeah. He's a happy little Man-O-War. Just sitting on top of the waves, just proud as he can be, minding his own business. Probably eating some kind of fish, plankton. Yeah. And notice I'm not putting a bunch of paints right now on my plate. Now, normally, whenever I do another painting that requires a lot of paint, then I'll set up my paint with my plate with a bunch of colors that I'm going to be using. But since I'm just using one color, I'm going to have just one color out. I'm not using a bunch of colors right now. I'm just almost just sketching on the canvas. There's kind of a little frilly ruffle that goes through on his happy little mohawk. And let's start adding some shading. This is where it's nice to get your colors kind of watered down because you've already got the canvas filled in. Now you just want to get some shading in. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm telling you right now that I'm no Bob Ross. I'm no Thomas Cade. You know, I know that this is probably not going to be much anything, and nobody's going to probably want to buy this, and that's just fine. This is for me and my own personal joy. You know, this is just me enjoying life, living my best life. So if you're painting or reading or writing, that's what you got to do it for. You got to do it for your own personal enjoyment. Because if you don't, it's not going to have as much meaning. It's not going to mean the same. Yep. Yeah. Can't really see it on the camera, but it looks better on the camera than it does in real life. That is funny. I don't care who you are. That's funny right there. Uh, and no, it's not going to look very pretty. This is for you, right? Some things just aren't going to take shape until you play with it for a little bit. Now, take a brush, use it to smooth some things out. Almost like what a Kleenex does when you're sketching. It helps clear up some shading. Right now, it's just the shadows that are important to me. I can come in later and add highlights. What I want right now with my paint is a clean gradient. That clean, dark to light look. Because it's paint. If you don't like what look once we got the shadows laid in, we can come back in and paint over with lighter and blend in. Because it's easier with paint to go from one to the other. If you're going dark to light, go dark to light. Don't flip flop back and forth. Uh, you can do that later, once the paint dries, but when the paint is wet, go one to the other. Otherwise, your colors are going to come out muddy. Um, with some instances, it's best to go light to dark. In other instances, it's better to go dark to light. This is one of those instances where I want to go dark to light because I want it to look clear. But if you're like adding uh, bright colors next to dark colors, go light to dark because it's easier to cut in with those dark colors and keep the lines clean. But with something like this that I want to blend, then dark to light makes a difference. Small differences. And I know that there's probably some art teacher out there that's going to disagree with me and tell me I'm wrong. Well, you've got the art degree, honey. I am an unprofessional artist, and I'm just hanging out here, you know. You paint how you want to paint, and I'll paint how I want to paint. There's a reason why I didn't finish art school. I got tired of people, particularly people who didn't have careers of their own, telling me how to make art. Art is something that's inside of you, okay? If you got your art teacher telling you that you're not going to be something, but you got art inside of you, ignore them. Not all art is about making money. And I'm just saying, if you want to go to art school, you can go to art school, but uh, there's better things you can spend. For the cost of art school, you can go to France and have a membership to the Louvre for a year. That's what I wish I would have done. Would have saved me a lot of time and heartache. Anyways, tangents aside. Now, one good thing that having an art degree will do is if you're trying to go into corporate art, like graphic design, designing business cards or uh, storefronts and whatnot, that sort of thing does require. Oh, that's the repairman. I'll be back. The coast is clear. We are back on our own again. I've just been working on the painting. No, you can't drink that. Dogs. Shh. It's okay. Shh. All right. Do 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 do. Still. So let me see here. Go on. Stop freaking water. Stop it. It's like, stop that. Stop that. It's not that dramatic. There was a person here. Yes, there was a person here. There was a person other than me. But it's okay. 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 Stop trying to push my table. Mojo, stop it. Honey, go on. Go on. You're trying to put, you're pushing my table over, honey. Stop it. It's okay. It's okay. Oh gosh, now you're going to try and push the table over again. Stop it. It's okay. We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay, okay? Ooh, honey. You okay? Oh, you got a bunker on the head? Don't do that. That's bad for you. He bumped his head on the desk. Bless his soul. Ugh. Stop licking the floor, honey. It's bad for you. And we now return to our regularly scheduled hangout. Party on. Da, 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 da. Missing. And there might come a point in your painting where you're just not happy with it. And that's okay. See, the best part about paint is that you can paint over it. I know it looks all fine and well from the camera, but it's a hot mess over here. And I think that's mostly got to do with me not being used to being watched while I do this. Well, technically, I'm being watched by the camera, and that's the thing. But it's gonna be okay. Yeah, you just gotta keep adding paint. Just keep adding paint. Just keep going from where you are. And there everybody goes again, starting to bark. My dogs do that. They hear a tiny little leaf blow outside, and they have to notify the house that a leaf blew outside or that a truck drove by. That's all that is. Hmm. That's okay. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, okay. And all the while, I'm still trying to keep that transparency that I liked so much. You know? here. And blend, blend, blend. Core highlight right here. Core highlight right there to show fullness. Right there. Right there. Right there. Yeah. You know, in a lot of ways, painting can be like sculpting, both in the way that you're shaping the paint on canvas, as well as the way you're pulling and pushing shadows with highlights and tints. And it doesn't have to make sense immediately. It just has to make sense to you. Which is starting to come together. Yeah. All right. Things are shaping up with the painting, finally. And I think I'm about ready to move on to some of the fun stuff, the little frilly bits at the bottom. I need more ultramarine. Oh, that ultramarine is so loose. My dog thinks me leaning forward and leaning back is a game, so he's chasing me right now. It's quite adorable. Okay. We're starting to make those little frilly bits that sit on the bottom part of the Manowar. This area right here is actually kind of its stomach, and just just the real frilly bits. And again, when you're painting like this, you start dark and you go light because it's all about the transparency here. You still want it to have that transparent look. And if it's not dark enough, you can make it darker. And if it's not light enough, you can make it lighter. All of this nice and roughly. Squiggle, 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 squiggle. It comes up to meet the balloony part of the Manowar. That's technical terminology, balloony part of the Manowar. I'm sure that there is a technical term for it, but we are artists. All right. And I fully intend to actually, what is it called? I wonder. Down here along the bottom, where it meets the water, we give it a nice bit of shading. Yeah. Okay. Let's make some tentacles. Okay. And there is no law that says that you can't paint over your lines, and there's no law that says you can't draw on your paint. Oh, let's see here. What to do first? Okay. So what I'm going to do now, actually, rather than do my tentacles, I'm going to do some drawings. Let's see here. Want a person right here. And person right there. Because remember, this is a say something painting. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect as long as the point comes across. And this is a Manowar. So we're going to have oil drum right there with the tentacle coming around. We're going to have right here battle tank. Tentacle coming up and around it. And then down here, maximum, say something. We're going to have a flag. Now, here's the thing most Americans don't understand is that it is our civic duty to question our government, which, if you're keeping up with current events here in America, you will be aware of what's going on. And I think now more than ever, we need to question our leadership. Now, notice I didn't say revolt against. There is a big difference. I am not for anarchy. Anarchy is for idealists in the end, and we need our leaders, but our leaders need to keep a healthy fear of its people. That's another healthy thing. I think I'm happy with that. I think I can go somewhere with that, with what I've drawn in. So I'm going to start by getting some black paint. Putting it on my plate. A little bit of white. This has to be my favorite little detail brush. I had to have the microphone muted while I was doing this because my friend was here. But here it is. There we go. It's a little tiny brush. This is all what I tend to wind up using. It holds paint well, and every artist has their favorite brush. This is probably mine next to the big brushes. So I'm gonna need I think I'm going to start with black and go into gray for this, not for transparency reasons, but so I can get the image laid in. And I can go, or do I want to start with the blue of the tentacles and then go into black? This is one of those situations where it's better to start with light and go into dark. Good point. So actually, I'm going to start with my blue tentacles. Because it's much easier in this case when I'm painting around things, to paint over them, to paint over the blue than it is. It's easier to paint over the blue than it is to paint over the black. So, and there's less confusion about where the color is going. And when you're doing line work like this, one thing that is really important to note is it's easier to make a line going down than it is to go up. This is actually true when you're doing liquid eyeliner. To paint down for lines, even when you're writing letters, if you'll notice in calligraphy, the stroke is always usually on the down, unless you're using a pen type. But if you're using a brush, downstroke is going to give you a steadier line than an upstroke. So I'm going to go ahead and do my tentacles. Bring them on down. Bring it on down. And they're a little flat right now. And that's okay, because we'll go in later and add depth and dimension. We're just doing the concept of the tentacles right now. And we can play with it as we go later. Right now we're just giving shape to our Manowar tentacles. As they come on down. One thing I forgot to do, and this is particularly if you have don't have ambidextrous, paint in the direction of your hand that you write. So since I'm right-handed, I should have been painting this left to right, because now I got wet paint on the right-hand side and I've got unfinished lines on this side. I just made this work harder for myself. But a table to steady your arm is going to go a little bit further. And don't ever frustrate yourself with painting. It's very important to remember that everybody is at a different skill level. If you can't paint what another person can paint, don't be mad at yourself. Um, that could be because they've had more practice. There's also natural talent. I knew one guy who read a drawing book one night, and the next day he was making these beautifully uh, realistic drawings of people. He just read a book and there it was. Um, there's natural talent. So each artist is where they are in their ability. And this is one of the main reasons why artists have different range of prices for their own individual art. It makes a difference. So keep that in mind when you're doing paintings, that not every artist's ability is going to be at the same level. And that's okay. You're not unless you're trying to paint to make money, there's no need to be frustrated. And if you're trying to paint to make money, you really probably should be taking a few painting classes. You don't have to get an art degree. You can just take some painting classes. Watch some YouTube videos about how to paint, you know? You can watch this video and learn a few things about painting. The main thing I want you to take away from this is to be forgiving of yourself. If you are frustrated at your painting, it'll come across. So if you're getting flustered, take a step back, go get a soda, go get a snack, go to the bathroom. Give yourself a few minutes. An important thing to remind yourself is that every artist is at a different place. And sometimes when you take a break and you come back, you realize it wasn't so bad. Your mess up wasn't so bad, and all you have to do is just peck at it a little bit more with your paintbrush. Filling out these tentacles. I think I want this one to be a little bit longer. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Okay. Don't you do it. There it goes. That's why it stays on the floor. That's why it lives on the floor. Because it gets knocked off. Welcome to my room. Hi, honey. I just lost my bucket of water. I have to mop it up. Nothing was damaged. I just lost a bucket of water is all. Oh, there we go. Okay, I will be right back. Yep, my paintbrushes just all fell off the drawer. Oh my goodness. Everything's just falling apart in 2 seconds. Oh goodness. What a mess. What a mess. need another towel. The water spilled in my moccasin. Oh. This is why the water bucket lives on the floor. Dang it. The criminal. At least it didn't get into my shoes. It made one heck of a mess, though. One way to mop the floor, I suppose. Why do you look guilty? Woozle's peeping around the corner looking guilty. Like he spilled the water. Oh, sweetie, you didn't do anything. Come here. You're okay. You didn't do anything. Come here. Say hi. Wave. He's acting so guilty like he did something wrong. Bless his heart. Okay, I think I got everything. I'm going to go refill my bucket. The bucket is on the floor. Ooh. You know what? Yeah, see, this is the little drawer thing that I keep my stuff in. Right now I have it on a rolling ottoman. My dogs are running around like right now like they did something wrong when it was me. It's okay, guys. You'll be okay. Okay. I think I'm going to start with the black a little bit of black. And again, whenever you're painting up to the lines and everything, an important thing to remember is to paint up to the line. None of those janky little because we want the tentacles to look like they're holding on to something. It's just a happy little tank. That's what I'm painting right now. Tank. And one of the Manowar tentacles. All right. Happy little tank. Now we're going to do a happy little oil drum. Remember, go right up to the line. That's what's important. Go right up to the line. It's okay. It's a happy little oil drum. And it's always good when you're painting around things. This is where brush strokes don't really matter because you can even them out once you fill in the space. But when you're starting out painting around something, it's really good to cut in. That's what it's called when you do the outline first and then paint in. Ridge right there. And I'll come in with some gray here in a minute. And then up here in the upper tentacles, we have people. And yes, my ability to paint people is perfectly competent. I can draw people just fine. But the that's not the point of this say something painting. The point of this say something painting is a commentary on war. So we don't have to be Pablo. We don't have to be Manet. But again, it doesn't have to be perfect as long as you're getting your point across. So little stick figure people go in the tentacles. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to take a little bit of white. And yes, I know what I said a minute ago about not using my brush to mix paints. But when it's a tiny brush like this, you're not wasting that much paint. And with this brush, I can really easily squeeze the paint out of the bristles. So we're just going to put a top on top of that oil drum. That's a little on the dark side. I'm going to lighten it up here along the edge. Give it a rim right here. Happy little rim. Kind of smooth it out so it looks flat. Yeah. Then we're going to take this gray. We're going to put wheels in our tank. Happy little tank wheels. Then we're going to take this lighter gray. We're going to go along the top of the tank, right here. Give it a little bit of dimension. Just so that there's a little bit of perspective. We don't need perfect perspective. We just need a little bit. And I'm going to do faces, but that's going to be in a flesh tone. So I'm going to reach into my drawer right here. Doesn't have to be a perfect flesh tone, just a flesh tone. Mm. Mm. Since I'm only doing two faces, I just did a tiny, tiny drop. When you're going from one color to another, especially if it's like black to a bright color, make sure you rinse your brush real good because it makes a difference. I'm going to put faces on my people. And this is what I was talking about, struggling going from dark to light. When I first lay in the face, it's going to mix with that black. Even if the paint's dry, it's going to mix with the black. So you just got to be patient. Get it on there as thick as you can. Let it dry. Add another layer. In the meantime, there it is. What did I tell you? There it is. It happened. There it is. I knew it was going to happen. Happens every time I rinse my brush in my coffee. Happens every time. Never fails. So, excuse me. Welcome to my hangout. Okay, so what I've got here is a Manowar fish. And it's a say something painting. So I've got in its tentacles an oil drum and a tank. Down here is going to be American flag, and up here is going to be a bunch of people getting sucked into the Manowar. And it's a say something painting. The commentary. Uh, Thank you for joining me. I'm happy to have you here. So that's what's going on in my painting. I do not speak that language. I apologize for my lack of knowledge in language. If you would please say that. Okay. All right. It's cool. It's cool. My translation service on this wasn't working, and I lack the ability to translate it right now. Shh, it's okay, puppies. All right. So we've got our Manowar. We've got people stuck up in its tentacles. We got some things regarding war. Thank you, Ortega. That's so sweet. What I'm about to do right now is paint the flag down at the bottom. I'm going to need some red for this and a different shade of blue. Let's go ahead and use some Prussian blue for the American flag. It's like we're going to have to lighten that up. Where's my Scoopy thingy? Scoopy thingy. Where'd you go? Where'd you go, Scoopy thingy? Scoopy thingy, no. Here it is. All right. We'll get a little bit of this blue. You know what? I'm a RECYCLE with this lighter blue over here that I mixed earlier when I was painting the top part of the Manowar. A little bit more of that Prussian blue in there. A little bit more rich. Yeah. There we go. That's almost there. A little bit more. I like to use my Scoopy thingy technical term because if I use my brush, it clogs up the brush. It doesn't work. I will make an exception sometimes and use the brush, but only for like small color changes. Okay. Right on top of red. Coming in here, white on the flag. Now the American flag has 13 stripes. But since we're doing a tiny flag, and this is a say something painting, the details only matter if they're going to help you get your point across. And trust me, people are going to see red, white, and blue and understand it's an American flag. No disrespect meant to the stars and stripes. this is a say something painting. So next, you know what? Maybe I'll just do it this way because I don't like the blue that I made a minute ago. Not quite kind of blue, but again, it gets the point across. And finally, we'll come in with that red. And it's a say something painting. Here it goes into the white. When you make a boo-boo, keep painting. The red went into the white. Lucky for me, I wasn't done painting the white anyways. I know I just made that too watery. So let's do this. Coming in with the red. Tiny brushes, tiny, tiny, tiny brush. I think we need another stripe, right? Does the American flag end on red or does it end on white? When in doubt, Google it. American flag ends on red. Good to know. What is the Gothic game? Oh, I guess not. Usually I'm spending my day painting, reading, or doing online surveys for money. I don't really I used to play a lot of RPG games when I was younger, but I don't play many games right now. Uh, Mostly it's books, paintings, or this. What you see is what you get. So that's pretty much all I got. I think I'm going to use this nice gray to make my flagpole. Now, before people go off thinking that I'm being unpatriotic, I would hope that you would remember in history class that America was founded by revolutionaries. And it was written into our civic duties to question and to comment. and to peaceful protest. Not violent protest, peaceful protest. So it would be my hope that before passing judgment on little old nobody me, with all of 0 viewers right now, I would hope that you would consider the source and move on. I'm no threat to you or anybody. I have no power here. All right, so I'm going to take one of my little tools here, and I'm going to paint my oil drum. Actually, you know what? Before I do that, I'm going to come in again with my... Oh, what did I do with it? Did I put it back before I washed it? I would hope not. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's hiding down. There it is. Come back in with some black. Go back over my oil drum here. And fill it in. It was what I was saying with those weird cross-hatchy things. That happens when you paint on canvas. That helps add definition. Much better. Indeed. Let's see here. I think I'm going to add some more skin to my people. My paint. My paint. My puppies are all asleep underneath me. It's so sweet. They're so sweet. My sweet little puppies. Just like I was saying. Just keep painting. Hands. Look at my people's hands. Yep. Hands and neck. Then I can come back with my little tool and draw in eyes and a mouth and nose. Mm-hmm. Get my little tool here. My black paint should be dry enough to come in. All right. His painting is certainly not done, but I am. I want what I've done on the canvas to have a good chance to dry and cure before I start adding more layers. So I think I'm gonna be about done for the day. Ah, Bridget! Hello! Hey girl! How you doing? How you been? How was your day, honey? How lovely. I've been doing this all day. Very relaxing. How nice. It's a Manowar fish. And this is a tank. And this is a oil drum. This is an American flag. There's little people up in its tentacles that it's eating. It's like a Manowar, get it? It's a say something painting. Yeah, heavy metal. Yeah, yeah, pretty much. It's a say something painting. You know, the idea's been rolling around in my head for a couple months. Just recently I found the concept drawing of it in a random sketchbook I had somewhere. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna paint that. And then I decided to do a live feed of it. So that's kind of what I've been doing all day. Honestly, it looks a lot better on camera than it actually. I'll post a picture of it on Gothic Fashion once I've put finishing touches on it. Right now, it is as of yet not finished. I'm gonna add some other colors to it. Interesting. Public debts. So, like personal mortgage loans? Hmm. Yeah, taxes, taxes, taxes. Isn't it funny how Uncle Sam isn't paying anybody right now, but he expects to be paid? I'm about to put some eyes on my people. Eyeball. Eyeball. Those are some pretty unsettling characters. Now I'm going to do mouse. Mouse. And yep. Okay. Well, Brigitte, I am about done here. I was just finishing up when you came in, actually. Uh, you don't have to watch the whole 4.5 hours if you don't want to, honey. You probably have better things to do with your day. Sorry. I've just been hanging out all day. I'll probably do this again tomorrow. Uh, this was kind of fun. A little bit crazy in points because, I was getting calls and people were coming and going and stuff, but I will be around. Ooh. Just hanging oot and a boot. I'm going to clean up. It was good to see you, though. Nice to see you. You take care, honey. I appreciate you coming in.